Hey yarn friends, welcome back to LlamaMamaKayla's Yarn Tube. So today I'm making this little ghost. He's easy, simple, really quick make. You can make him in one sitting and he's great for beginners. But I'll tell you what I'm going to be using to make him. I'm using my 12 peg loom, my loom pick. You'll need a tapestry needle, something to cut your yarn, and some polyfill. And also I'll be using a washer to place in the bottom of my ghost to help him stand a little better and make him a little bit weighted. You could also use rocks, aquarium rocks, or those at Dollar Tree. You can buy those bags of those little round, clear rock looking things. You could use that. And I'm going to be using white yarn and just a snippet of black yarn for the eyes, and I'm using a 4-weight yarn, and I'm using 1 strand. I'm also going to be needing a stitch marker and 2 little push pins to mark the eyes when I get ready to put the eyes on. And I think that's all we need to get started. I do want to let you know that I enjoy making these videos, but I am not a professional. I'm not trying to be professional. And I'm just in my home. You will hear bird noises. You may hear dog noises. You may hear noises from other people who live in my home. And I do not pay anyone to edit my videos. It is what it is. And I hope you're able to follow along. Remember that you do have the ability to speed up or slow down videos on YouTube. So if you look for that little gear button and click that, you will be able to change the settings so you can slow down or speed up any video on YouTube that you're trying to follow along. So let's get started. Okay, so to make this little ghost, I'm going to make a slip knot and place it on the anchor peg, and we're going to do a drawstring cast on. Bring my yarn to the middle, zigzag in and out between each peg. Okay, and back to the beginning. I'm going to go behind row peg 1, and I'm going to lay my yarn all the way around. Just kind of loosely, I'm not holding it super tight. And back to peg 1, I'm just going to wrap it on here just to hold it momentarily. That's not really going to stay wrapped on there. I'm just holding it for a moment. And so every other peg should have 2 strands of yarn. So we're going to take the bottom and bring it over the top, all the way around. And this creates a drawstring. So in the end, we will be able to pull the tail and close our project up. All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to take that yarn that I just wrapped around peg 1 off. Okay, so for this project, we're just going to, for row 1, lay our yarn across peg 1 and go to peg 2. And we're doing a U-knit, and this is not pulled tight, it's just comfortably sitting there. And bring the bottom strand over the top strand and over the peg. Okay, we're almost finished with row 1. Okay, row 1 is completed. I'm just going to push my loops down just a little bit. They don't have to go all the way to the bottom. Now for row 2, this is the first time we are actually going to work on peg 1. So I bring my yarn on peg 1 just like that. And U-knit over. U-knit and yarn over. So this is row 2. All right, so I'm going to let you pause the video and catch up we are going to do 6 rows of U-knit, and we're on row 2 right now. So continue until you have reached 6 rows, and I will meet you right back up. Okay, I have finished my 6 rows of U-knit, and we can take this anchor off the anchor peg, and you could have took it off before now if you'd wanted to, and just stuff that in to hang down in the middle. Alright, so for this next row, we are going to do a row of purls. And to do a purl, you reach down the stitch, grab your working yarn and pull it up to make a new loop. Take that loop and pop a stitch off of the peg and put that new loop you just made onto the peg. I'll show you that again. Pull your yarn up, you make a new loop, take the stitch off the peg and put that new loop back on the peg. So let's just do that all the way around for this row. Okay, we're almost back to the beginning. Okay, last peg, last purl. The rest of the project is U-knits. Okay, so we've completed one row of purl, and that's the only row of purl we're going to do. So next we are going to U-knit, back to U-knitting. And we're going to U-knit 20 rows in total. When I reach 10 rows, I'm going to come back and give you a little tip, and then we will U-knit 10 more rows. So 20 rows in total, and I'll be right back after I have done 10 rows. Okay, I have completed 10 rows of my U-knit, and just something I'd like to show you is that when I am doing a series of, numerous rows, if I'm doing 10 and then like 10 more or 10 more or whatever, I will put a stitch marker at every 10 rows. That way, if I mess up on my counting, I don't have to come and count all these rows again. I can just start from there and count up my rows. And that just saves a lot of time than having to go through and try to count all the rows. You can also do that every 5 rows if that makes you a little more comfortable. But if you're, knitting something and you need to do 40 rows and you lose count, you don't want to come back and just count all these rows. So this is 10, and you can just start counting 11, 12, so forth. I just wanted to show you that little tip real quick. I'm going to U-knit 10 more rows. Okay, I've completed all 20 of my rows of E-wrap, and to recap what we've done, we did 6 rows of U-knit, 1 row of purl, and 20 rows of U-knit. So I'm going to take my working yarn and wrap it around my loom one time and snip my yarn, and I'm going to do a drawstring bind off. Just reach down through your stitch, grab your yarn, and pull it through the top. Just go around and grab that for all 12 pegs. That will secure all of our stitches when we pop them off the loom. just pop all your stitches off. Alright, then I'm going to take my fabric here and stretch those stitches open. I can remove my stitch marker from the inside. Alright, so the top part, we can just close that up. I'm going to take my tapestry needle. And I'm just going to go back through my loop before I pull it tight to close that up. And I'm going to do it one more time. Okay, and then I'm just going to stick my needle down inside and just come out somewhere over here and snip that yarn. Okay, so now we need to stuff our little ghost with some polyfill. Alright, so I'm going to take some polyfill and just fluff it out, let the air get all up in there. And we're going to take small amounts at a time. And push up in there for our little head. Okay, and we're not going to overstuff. If you overstuff it and it makes your stitches come open and you can see the stuffing, then you have way too much stuffing. And you probably need to take all that stuffing out and put about half of it back in. But you do want to stuff that head really good, but not overstuff. Just take small amounts at a time. Do a little bit more in here. Okay, and to give my yarn, my little ghost, a little bit of weight at the bottom so he stands up nicely, I'm going to place this washer in here. And I'm going to slip it in so it sits right in that row of pearls. And then we can just pull the bottom to close it. Oh. And that will be our little ghost. But we need to add a face and some arms. But I'm going to take my tail here and thread it. And I'm going to close this up. And go back through my loop to tie it off good. And I'm going to do that twice. And then I'm just going to take my yarn and go up through the middle and come somewhere out the ghost. Pull that tight, but not so tight that you change the shape. And then snip off your yarn, and that will just poke up into your ghost. Okay, so now we have our ghost, and we need to make him some arms. To make the arms, we are going to, I'm going to set him over to the side. We're going to make a slip knot. I'm going to leave a little bit of a tail so I can use that tail to sew the arm up. Probably not that long of a tail, but enough that you can actually sew with. Okay, I'm going to make my slip knot and place it on the anchor peg. Alright, and so on this, we're doing a drawstring cast on for 6 pegs in through the first and last pegs of the loom and zigzag in around, whoop, I used the tail instead of the yarn. Okay, with the working yarn, zigzag in and out between all pegs until you get to the 6th peg. Okay, on the 6th peg, go around the peg. You're going to come back, just circle around that last peg, number 6. Come back to peg 5, and just lay your yarn across the top. So it should look like that. Now we only have 2 strands of yarn on 2 pegs, the 2nd peg and the 4th peg. So we're going to take our yarn, the bottom strand, and bring it up over the top strand and the peg, and that creates a drawstring. So back down here at peg 1, we're just going to loop around peg 1 and come back to peg 2. And this is row 1. So in row 1, all we're going to do is loop around peg 1, come to peg 2, and U-knit. So we're going to U-knit all 6 pegs. Well, we skipped that first peg because we went around it, but go all the way down to your last peg, which is number 6. Okay, that was row 1. For row 2, we're going to get the last peg and come up every peg and U-knit. Okay, and U-knit on the last peg. And then for row 3, get that last peg, the first peg that you're starting with again. Okay, and I'll give you a little tip on this. When you are working on this, on this arm, odd rows are going to go this way, and your even rows are going to go this way. So row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4. So I'm on row 4 now, and I'm headed back towards the anchor peg. Okay, we're going to do 15 rows just like this, back and forth for the arm, and I will meet you when I have completed 15 rows. Okay, I have completed my 15 rows back and forth, and so I'm going to leave a tail and cut my yarn. And I'm going to do a drawstring bind off. Alright, and I could have taken that anchor peg off at any time before now, but there it goes. Okay, so now I'm ready to pop off my stitches off the pegs. And then just stretch your stitches open pull our tails to close up the ends. And then you see how it just kind of naturally rolls up. You can take your anchor peg tail and place it on your needle. And then we're just going to stitch this together, going from one side to the other, just kind of whip stitch it up. Just grab a stitch from each side, like that. Make sure your yarn is up and pull it through. And just do that all the way down till you have your arm sewn together, closed up. Okay, so I have my arm all closed there, and I'm just going to take this yarn and just tie it to the long tail that I left. And this long tail for this arm is going to be used for sewing it on. For your second arm that you make, you don't have to leave such a long tail at the top. You do want to leave the long tail at the bottom so you can sew it up, but this long tail right here only needs to be left on one arm. So I can snip this off. Alright, and make sure you make 2 arms. Okay, once you have your 2 arms ready, decide on your ghost what's your front and back, and mine seems to look the exact same all the way around. So I don't have a side that I'd rather be the front or the back. It looks exactly the same all the way around for me. So I'm just going to stand it there, and I'm going to put my arms on. So to do this, I've threaded, like I said, one arm needs a tail and one arm does not. So I've threaded my needle, and I'm just going to poke through the top shoulder of my arm. Now we want to leave an area that's going to be the head. We're not going to tie the head off, but we want to leave an area for the head and face. So come down a little ways, and then just imagine your face on there. And once you're happy with the placement, poke your needle all the way through and just kind of make sure that's where you want your arms placed. Does it look like it's going to be even? Okay, and if when you get situated and happy with that, then place your other arm close to the shoulder of the arm. Place it on your needle, and then pull your yarn all the way through. You don't want to pull it so tight that it reshapes your ghost, but pull it snug and then go back through this arm a little bit closer to the shoulder. You can try to go in that same stitch and then come out in the top shoulder of this arm. Alright, and then there's your ghost arms. And you can kind of fluff them a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to take my needle here, and I'm just going to poke back, poke back through my arm. And I'm going to secure my yarn and tie it off. Make a couple little places there where I can tie off my yarn. Okay, then I'm going to take my needle and just run down inside the arm and pop out somewhere down below. And that's where I'm going to snip my yarn. Alright, so now we have our ghost in his arms. And so now we need to do a face for him. You just kind of manipulate your arms, and you notice your arms will move because we put on movable arms. Okay, so now let's think about our face. We want to put some eyes on our ghost. So get you some pins and kind of play around where you want your eyes to go. Just play around with a few different options there. Yeah, I think that's good for me. Alright, so then get you some black yarn. You're not going to need all that much, but get you some black yarn there. And cut you a good strand. I probably got about a ruler size here, 12 inches. And then thread your tapestry needle, and I'm going to go in from the back of the head and kind of go up, and I want to come out right next to this spot where I have this eye marked, and I'm going to leave a tail in the back, and I'm just going to hold that with my finger down here. Okay, so over here I'm going to go over the little section where I have the eye marked. I'm going to go over that, but I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to curve back to come out on the other side of my pin on this side. And then I'm just going to pull my yarn through. Oops, I grabbed an arm. Pull the yarn through. And then I'm going to take my needle and come over here. And I'm going to aim my needle to go down the back of the head. Alright, now I can move my pins. And we have eyes on our ghost. You can decide if you need to, pull those out a little or pull them tighter. You don't want to pull them too tight because they'll sink up in there. So there's the eyes. And if you would like to make a mouth on yours, you are more than welcome to. I think I'm just going to leave mine with some eyes. And I'm going to snip off. I'm going to tie this right here. And then I'm going to snip this off. Oops. Alright, I'm going to snip my yarn right here. And then I'll take my needle and I'm going to push this yarn up inside the ghost. Just kind of push it into my polyfill there. And now you could barely even tell it's there. Alright, so there's my little ghost of decoration. And if you saw my other video, you know we have a Frankenstein decoration too. So we have a little ghost and a Frankenstein here. And I thank you for watching, and I will see you all again very soon with more little characters for this month.